Hi, I'm Michaela and I've been suffering with chronic pain due to endometriosis and co-conditions for 16 years. I want to share with you what I've learned along my journey and things I wish I knew and had been told along the way. I may have seen hundreds of specialists, including endometriosis specialists, but I still struggle when it comes to recommendations, and there's a reason that endo care system is so corrupt. Hello everyone and welcome to my next podcast. I am trying to answer as many questions as possible from many of the questions I get via my podcasts, and to answer this question I needed my husband to join me. So joining me on this podcast episode is my husband, who you've all heard a lot about, Ruby Abenson.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. I wanted this episode to be able to help those who message me and say, what specialists can I recommend when they ask to see, when they message me. Let me go back. This episode, I wanted to be able to help answer the question of people who ask me, what specialist do I recommend they go see? Some of them aren't yet diagnosed, some of them have symptoms, some are waiting for a diagnosis, and some already have a diagnosis. However, I struggle from my experience to recommend a specialist, and I was thinking you could come on here to help me explain why we struggle so much with this.
So, over the years, we've seen many specialists.
Yeah.
Most of them calling themselves endometriosis specialists.
Yeah.
And
probably over 30. Around.
I would love to actually write a list, exactly work out how many, but it's
we
a lot.
We do have a list somewhere, but we've not updated it in the past 2 years. So
yeah, it's not only the ones we've seen, it's the ones we've spoken to.
Yes,
I've spoken to ones in Germany, in Israel, in California, in all over in Cleveland, different clinics, all calling themselves endometriosis centres. Most times it's just one person that calls himself a centre, which is a shame because you have this idea that you're going to speak to this big centre which is going to help you, but really it's just one person that doesn't know much at all.
And often if it is, a gynaecologist leading this centre, and they need to then operate on different organs, very nice that they can call in a colleague, but that won't be an endometriosis specialist. So you're back to having surgery on other parts of your body without someone who actually knows about endometriosis.
Yeah, so to clarify that, so you've got an endometriosis, let's say a gynaecologist who has done a module in endometriosis, or a gynaecologist that has worked, who has done extra training in endometriosis. But they wouldn't feel confident enough to really cut into a bowel or a bladder or other organs. So what happens is they call in, like you said, a urologist or a colorectal surgeon, but then the colorectal surgeon can't really detect endometriosis.
Or at least not all types of it, or from all places.
Yeah, so then you've got a surgeon cutting into your bowel who doesn't really know what they're looking for, and an endometriosis specialist who, as well, most of them, I would
in the
say,
UK that we've
contacted, don't have enough experience when it comes to endometriosis. There's so many different colours and shades, and so it's. And
I will attach to this. I did a post about it, how there's actually over 150 different types, and about deep infiltrating endometriosis, which, that's another reason that we find it hard to say to recommend a specialist, because we know, well, with me, I had deep infiltrating endometriosis that got missed, during 7 surgeries,
like
8 surgeries. I hadn't had an MRI done, and not by a specialist that knew what to look for, and then many cases which is deep infiltrating endometriosis, can only be seen through imaging, but it has to be imaging read by the correct sonographer, and it's actually scary, the amount of people that message me saying, what should I do, because my gynecologist won't do an MRI before surgery. And that's...
Yeah, run a mile.
Yeah, run, because they're happy to operate on you without knowing that they are going to get all the cells. And that's a big problem. This is specialists that they're sent to on the NHS. So what happens when there's no other choice? And this is why it's really hard for us to recommend a specialist, because...
Yeah, but even privately, we pay thousands of pounds to see someone in London. He called himself the Endometriosis, a clinic, not a clinic, a centre for endometriosis. We went down to London. Was not an easy trek.
Year.
Yeah, this time last year was not an easy trek. With the kids, and paid a lot of money for surgery. And I kick myself when I think about it, because we didn't do our due diligence. All it was a single gynecologist who had this fancy website where he would rent a theatre and rent a room to see patients. One thing he did do well was he had a really good... he actually didn't. That was the neck surgery. So he really let us down. And
well, he did send us to someone before for his own imaging, which made us think, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, because he said there's only one sonographer who I trust in Europe, and we know that that's the sign of someone who knows what they're talking about won't send you to any hospital for any scan, because they know they won't see it. So you do kick yourself now, but we're not experts, and we should be able to trust a doctor who says Endometriosis Specialist, who has loads of good reviews. He's on Nancy Nook, on all these websites. But now that we've learned, we know what's the alarm signs. We didn't know it back then, and that's really what I want to share with everyone. What's the alarm signs? What should you walk away from? How do you know you can trust this doctor? That if people are going, to these doctors, what do they look out for?
Right. And just to go back on this surgery last year, was one of the things that was a red flag for me that I should have realised, was he didn't do his due diligence, because when it came down to it after surgery, he's like, oh, I really could have done with some help in there. Like you had real bad bowel problems. So I thought that... in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you really need surgery with a bowel surgeon, a colorectal surgeon, and he was like, well,
that's why we went to him originally, because on his website it says multidisciplinary team, and he operates with a colorectal surgeon. And then it gets to the surgery, and he says, it's fine, I can do it on my own. And
then after surgery, he backtracked and said, oh, I really should have had help in there.
And we were like, oh, we've just paid thousands of pounds for this. This was my 10th surgery. Should he not have gone in prepared?
Well, he should have, and we thought he was prepared to some degree. I was trusting him, and I shouldn't have. And that's why it's hard to recommend someone, because I trusted someone who in London is regarded, all over Europe, he flies all over to operate on people. People fly all over to be operated on by him. Yeah. And he just let you down in a massive way, let us down in a massive way.
And unfortunately, he wasn't the first.
No, and wasn't it, how long after that you needed another surgery?
7 weeks after that.
You needed another surgery?
Yeah, because he left me bleeding internally.
Wow.
But then I've also been operated on 4 times by a different specialist in Manchester, who after the first time we saw him, he said, endometriosis can't go back, you'll be fine now.
I remember looking at you at that time and thinking, oh, this is good. It must be really good if it doesn't come back. Yeah. And I can't believe he confidently came in and said that, because when you hear the word gynecologist, the first gynecologist people recommend is this guy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says to me they're under him and they love him, and I say, you know what, maybe he's re-educated himself, but if he hasn't, I can't recommend him. Yeah. I mean, on all my notes, it says that surgery was unsuccessful or patient's pain says she can't empty her bowels on every note, why did he never think of getting a colorectal surgeon or a gastro or someone to come and look at my bowels? All those years there was deep infiltrating endo all around my bowel. How hard, if he's one of the top ones, why did I have 4 surgeries where he left that inside of me? And that's really scary. I know a lot of people who see him.
After the second one, he should have been like, okay, clearly this isn't working.
Yeah.
Let's try and get something else involved.
I wonder if he ever operates on people with a multidisciplinary team.
He does.
So he just neglected
to his secretary, and she was telling me that he does operate with a colorectal surgeon.
So why did I have 4 surgery? And and it's just weird looking back on it now, because every letter from him talks about a problem with my bowels.
Every letter, yeah. I know.
And then, over the years, we just saw so many different specialists. And as we learned more about it, we would ask them, well, I guess we would kind of, how do you say it? Not contradict them, but they would say something and we would say, well, actually, we've read this about endometriosis and we're concerned about this. Or even after the hysterectomy, trying to get my HRT right, which is hard when you've had a history of endometriosis, so you can't have too much estrogen, but you have to have the right amount of estrogen. And any time we've spoken to a specialist that have realised that we know what we're talking about, not just because we've educated ourselves, but we've spoken to specialists from all over the world, so we do happen to know a lot more than the regular person, but they don't like it. They really don't, and I don't know why. When we come in there and confidently know about it and discuss it with them,
when we ask too many questions,
they get quite annoyed,
which is ridiculous, because we should know. And the other thing is they don't give us, the patient, enough information about the pre-surgery, during the surgery, and post-surgery. They don't tell you enough. So
as in this is another, I wanted you to come on for another podcast episode about this, about how surgery alone isn't just the answer. And I have done one already on physical therapy, because that's again, look, no one ever mentioned physical therapy to us until my 11th surgery.
No one mentioned it. We researched that and we found it from reading loads of books.
And then we asked for a referral and they laughed in our face. Now, in America, from everyone I've spoken to, they all get sent for it. Even women with pelvic pain get sent for it. So if you're listening to this and you haven't heard the other podcast, it is the first one and I definitely recommend listening to it. But unfortunately, also when you see a specialist and they're a surgeon, the only way they will, they recommend surgery or hormone treatment, because that's all they know. It doesn't mean that those are the only options. And that's why, as well, I think not that I have anyone I can recommend at the moment, but if I was to recommend someone, I'd also say you have to also look into everything. Don't just do the Western medicine.
Another podcast about how, I guess, from our experiences,
how to help yourself.
How to help ourselves.
Because it's not the doctors alone.
How to help yourself, how to treat your endometriosis.
Yeah.
Because a surgeon is just one part of that.
Yeah. But so really, that's why it's very hard for us. And I do get a lot of messages saying, who do you recommend? So I can't really tell you who to recommend, but I can tell you, we can tell you what to look out for and make
red
sure.
Flags.
Yeah, red flags.
That's what I think we need to discuss, some red flags.
Yeah, so, well, we've discussed already that the doctors, surgeons who operate without any imaging, MRI or anything, that's a red flag.
And the centre, when somebody says, or an Instagram post or a website that says endometriosis centre or the centre of endometriosis, it means nothing.
No.
Unless you actually can go to somewhere and it is an actual centre of endometriosis. Most times it's a fancy website with a guy renting an office.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to recommend someone, because so far we've not met an endometriosis specialist. We have met gynecologists that can operate, are good surgeons.
Yeah.
But that's just literally,
But it's
that's
scary because you never
20% of
know
the
if they're going to
treatment.
get it all. And
Yeah.
and that's
It's
20%.
20% of the treatment. So when you say, can
And
you
then all
recommend an
these people
endometriosis
who
specialist?
aren't getting better just with surgery, and I was going to say it's not the surgeon's fault, but it kind of is as well, because the surgeon should be telling them this isn't alone going to help you.
Yeah. It's really sad when, because they're fooling you, I guess, when they say the centre of endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think, okay, this is it. I've gone to one place. They're going to fix me. I'm going to get better, and that's
Because
it.
so many people as well are having multiple surgeries, which is another huge issue. And I also speak to people who are having surgery done over 2 surgeries, and that's a big alarm as well, because a specialist should know how.
It's a massive trauma to the body.
Yeah, well, look, there was an article recently, The Guardian, about how multiple surgeries are actually making endometriosis patients work, and they've just realised this. Well, actually, there's research papers from the 1990s, I think I shared it as well, that said multiple surgeries are going to make endometriosis work. So that shows that the specialists don't know enough, because this research was already out there. Why don't they know that? And unfortunately, surgeries, they do cause trauma to the body and adhesions and all these things, that multiple surgeries is only making us worse. And endometriosis is something that needs surgery. So it needs to be done right the first time. Like, imagine them operating on someone with cancer and keep missing it or not getting them all, and it just wouldn't happen. But not as often as it does to us. How many patients are having multiple surgeries, and it's, we've missed I mean, how many people are even told where the endometriosis is? So, and then the next surgery they're told, we've missed off this bit. Whereas if you can see the most common places where endometriosis is found, that if it's not been removed off there after your surgery, then it's a bit of a worry. So obviously the ovaries, but the peritoneum is one of the most popular places, and not popular, common, and the Douglas of pouch. So if they're not getting this in the surgeries, then it's a red flag.
Yeah, and accessing these places aren't easy, so you really have to have an expert surgeon to find these places, to be able to access these places and remove it, and again making sure they're cutting it out and not burning it out. I still hear people who are saying that they're burning it out.
Well, I don't think BCG specialists are allowed to do ablation anymore. I don't know. I think I read that, but I do know.
Not only in the UK, around the world.
Yeah, so
it's mad to hear. It's mad.
Yeah, ablation is a big no-no.
Big no-no.
So for people who don't know, ablation is, excision surgery is when they go out to your body and they cut out the endometriosis from the root. Ablation is when... Go on.
It's like when you cut open a melon and you've got all those little seeds.
Yeah.
So some people just pull off the seeds and you've still got that soggy bit.
Yeah.
So
burning.
Excision is when you take off like enough so it's just clean melon.
Yeah. And ablation is when they burn it. They
just burn it, so it pretty much leaves everything there.
Yeah.
Just burn.
Yeah, and then it will just keep going back.
Oh, and another red flag I just remembered. If a surgeon says to you, it's inactive endometriosis.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
It's not even a
There's no such thing.
How many times were we told that?
Oh, so many times. Oh, I saw endometriosis. It didn't remove it, but it wasn't It was inactive endometriosis.
No.
I remember someone saying that. I
remember 2 people saying that.
I took it because it was like hospital, late at night, you're half asleep, and then you go on to I don't know, the NICE website, or you read some research papers. It's not hard to find them.
No.
And it clearly explains there's no such thing as inactive.
It's pretty scary if you think about it, the things that specialists have said to us, which shows how little they are aware about the condition, and that's why it's so important to become your own advocate, but you have to do the research.
And just make sure you know that it's 20, maybe not 20%, it could be more, the surgery, but it's a small part of your endometriosis healing.
Yeah.
And
because most times by the time people have gone for the surgery, the endometriosis has already gone in and done so much damage. So yes, we need to get the endometriosis out there, and it's hard but a necessity to find a specialist that can do that. But that doesn't mean that when you've healed from your surgery after 6 to 8 weeks or however long, you're going to be okay. You've got to fix your whole body and everything it's affected. And for some people, it's too late, and they've got really bad damage, but you've got to keep working on it. I mean, I don't have a working bowel or bladder at the moment because of that damage, but you just got to keep trying. I'm not saying, oh, well, it's gone, so the surgery didn't work. I've had the surgery, to remove the endometriosis. Hopefully this time they've actually, 12 times the charm. But there's stuff I have to do to make my body better as well, because the damage is done. One surgery isn't going to fix.
Yeah, the damage is done from multiple surgeries.
Yeah, but even...
And leaving the endometriosis for so long.
But, you know, if somebody goes in even to their first surgery and there's endometriosis on the ovaries and on the bladder, and they're in so much pain and they've not been eating properly and it's affected their mental health, they're not going to be better after 6 weeks of surgery.
No, you need a good diet.
Yeah.
Good mental health.
Yeah.
Mental
you need
health,
to learn to
brain
relax.
Brain health.
You have to have physio to learn to use those organs again for your body to function. So much stuff that we're just never told. So I might not be able to recommend a specialist to people, but I can help you speak to the specialists and work your way through the system and be your own advocate, because at the end of the day, I guess when it comes to the specialist, we just don't know who to trust. So we have to second guess, kind of. We have to check everything.
Yeah, I have to. And when a surgeon says something, ask him, one piece of information, ask him 5 questions or her, and do that. And the more information you get, the more you ask. I guess that if they start getting angry, walk away.
Yeah.
But it's hard to walk away because it costs money if you're going privately, or in the NHS, you walk away. You've got to wait months for another appointment. So you a lot of people will be balancing getting somewhat treatment now or waiting in agony for longer.
Yeah. Or, if you're in a position you can't walk away, say to them, I've done my research. I know I shouldn't be going in for this surgery without such and such MRI, without going for physio. Physio will help you recover after surgery as well. If you start it before, it helps the recovery. And if he says no, I don't know, what would we do? If I was in the situation now, knowing what I knew, I would ask to speak to someone superior and say they don't know enough about my condition, because it's a huge risk just to go into surgery knowing this one could work, this one couldn't work, maybe he is good enough, or maybe she isn't good enough. Surgery is a massive thing. Yeah,
I think endometriosis patients take it much lighter.
Yeah, for me, surgery just became a regular thing. It was like, you're in, you're out. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be something we're getting used to.
No. And one of the ways to see if a surgery works, and where we should have realised the big red flag, and walk away from a surgeon, was if the pain, a lot of times surgery tricks the body and the pain goes away for a few months or a few weeks.
Yeah.
If the pain stays away after 6 months, then that's considered a successful surgery. Whereas if the pain returns before 6 months, then that is not a successful surgery. So if you're operated on by a surgeon and within 6 months that pain has come back, do not whatever avoid that surgeon. Just avoid that.
That's not to say if after a year and a half the pain comes back, that might not necessarily be the surgeon's fault, because endometriosis can come back, especially it's hormones that make it grow. So, with so much hormones in the air, we're getting so many natural hormones, even if we're not taking the hormones. So it can always come back. But if it's still the same after 6 months, then you don't go back. Take that from us, who had 4 surgeries in the space of 4 years with the same surgeon, and now feel like pretty much quite idiots, I guess I should say.
We just didn't know.
No, and that's why it's just so important, as I keep saying. And, I know it's a lot to keep learning, so that's why I try and use my social media to take the important parts and share with you. If you're the type of person that doesn't like reading research papers and reading books, you can scroll through my stuff. It's got information there that I wish I would have known to save me from all this
Medical neglect.
Yeah. And now I have to live with the long-term damage. So that's why I'm so passionate about this. And I know it's really hard when people message me, and you would love me to message you back with the name of a specialist. And sadly, we have been let down by the medical system too much. So we can't recommend, but I can definitely, when you message me, a lot of the time it's me and Ruby responding. We will help you through it as much as we can, whilst, together we're all fighting to get the specialist re-educated, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's worrying as well. That's why we can't recommend, is we contacted the
Royal College of Gynecology.
The Royal College
This
of
is
Gynecology.
for the campaign work we're doing.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be doing a live about people have sent in questions. Yeah.
We can do it from the bed as well.
Yeah, we are recording this in bed. But for those who don't know, Ruby and I are working on a campaign in the UK to have endometriosis made as its own speciality. It needs its own speciality.
As it's a full body disease.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that another time. But that's the big concern that made us start this, is really because of our lack of trust and the things we've been told by the specialists. And we did contact them, and the fact
what they said the email, oh gosh,
I'll try find it.
You can do.
You try remember it. I'll look through my emails now.
They basically said, we are satisfied with the way, with the education, that the education that we give, whatever, the specialists, and it's working. And the fact that it takes 8 years on average, which means a lot of people longer, to be diagnosed with this disease, when it's the number 1 or number 2 gynecological disease.
One of them, I can't remember.
It's either the first or second most common gynecological disease. It's a bit mad. And the fact that the prognosis, the fact that, that the place that you'll be at with the illness in 5 years is not good for the majority of people.
Yeah, and then it only gets worse, so you need an earlier diagnosis. Which isn't happening, so that's why we can't recommend a specialist, because they're not doing their job. And early diagnosis and good treatment and good surgery. Yeah, also if anybody says to you, have a hysterectomy, that's a cure, or get pregnant, that's a cure, run, because those aren't cures. There's people who have had hysterectomies and they still have endometriosis.
Or worse.
Yeah, and then you're dealing with menopause, and again, we'll go into
surgical
all of
menopause,
that.
God bless.
But yeah, it's an illness that the longer you leave it, the worse it gets, which is why the waiting list shouldn't be so long.
Yeah, I do feel that this podcast might scare some people, because what we're basically saying is, get it fixed and get it cut out as soon as you can, but don't go to anyone to get it done. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope we didn't scare anyone.
There are people that have listened. We've not seen every specialist, and there are people that message me, and there are people that might not have it as bad and might not have it as complex, and you'll go for surgery and you'll have it removed and you'll be fine. There's, I'm sure, thousands of specialists, and I hope that we are talking to the Royal College of Gynecology who about it all, and we're not going to give up, and we hope that they'll keep re-educating. We hope that now they are re-educating them. By the time we finish with them, they definitely will be. Yeah. But yeah, we listen. We don't want to scare you. You do need surgery. We're just saying, look out for these red flags. And sorry, we can't recommend anyone, but it doesn't mean don't go for surgery. Yeah. And we're just also trying to say that, as well as surgery, the surgery isn't 100%. You can just walk away from that and be your old self.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
as in the centre of endometriosis, or the endometriosis centre, is you.
Yes.
You're the centre of endometriosis if
Yeah.
you have endometriosis.
Yeah.
And a surgeon and a gynecologist you can take into your centre and utilise as a tool. And then multiple other things that I guess would be on your post, check Pretty in Pain. And
you can also message me, or it would usually come through to both of us. I'm actually going to put an email address below because get behind with all the Instagram messages, and if you have a health related question, want to ask us something, want to ask for advice, it will probably be quicker if you email than send it through social media, because we're both going to be checking those. I'll put everything linked below, but I hope that this can help a bit. We've shared a bit more of our experience, how we've lost faith in the system a bit and doctors, and how we keep fighting for them to be re-educated, because we should be learning from them about our illness, not the other way around. And so thanks for joining me on this one, Ray.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be back soon.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions or any topics you want me to talk about, please reach out to me on social media at Pretty in Pain. I'll pop the links below.